I, 33, female, was adopted by my parents after my biological mother abandoned me at a fire station when I was born. My parents had been trying to have a child for a long time, but despite their best efforts, they had been unsuccessful. Hence, they turned to adoption, hoping to fill the void in their hearts. My adoptive mother, whom I simply call Mom, often tells me the story of how she fell in love with me the moment she saw me. She says that she felt an overwhelming sense of love and knew instantly that I was meant to be her daughter. My parents worked tirelessly to bring me into their lives, and for that, I will be forever grateful. They went through a lot of paperwork, interviews, and home visits to ensure that they could provide a safe, loving home for me. I can't imagine what my life would have been like at the orphanage had I not been adopted by them. My adoptive parents not only gave me a home, but also saved my life in many ways. I was their first child, and for many years I enjoyed the undivided attention and affection of my parents. They showered me with love and care throughout my childhood. However, unlike my parents, my maternal grandparents were not fond of me at all. They would constantly tell my parents that adopting me was a huge mistake and refused to acknowledge or talk to me. Their coldness was apparent and it stung deeply, though as a child, I couldn't fully comprehend why they treated me this way. One particularly painful memory I have from my childhood was during Christmas. The whole family usually went on vacations to my grandparents' cabin where we would all exchange gifts with each other. It was a happy, joyous occasion since it was the first time that I was part of the celebrations. While I received gifts from everyone, my grandparents blatantly refused to give me any gifts. They insisted that I was not really part of the family, hence they felt no obligation to give me anything. This led to a huge fight between my dad and my maternal grandparents. My dad, furious and protective, told them off for treating me differently than my cousins. He told them that I was part of their family since I was his and my mother's child, and their behavior towards me was unacceptable. Emotions ran high as he declared that he wouldn't be a part of the celebrations if they continued to exclude me. My mother, caught in the middle, tried to mediate. She gently urged my dad to calm down, explaining that not everyone would understand their decision to adopt. She tried to justify her parents' actions as being old-fashioned and pleaded with my dad to not take their words to heart. However, my dad refused to back off. Since my mother wasn't ready to go back with him, he left with me. I remember feeling terrible and even having a tummy ache as I kept thinking that I was somehow responsible for my parents' fight. My dad later assured me that none of this was my fault and that he loved me no matter what. Yet the guilt lingered, mingling with the sadness of being unwanted by my own grandparents. I wish I could write that with time, my grandparents' behavior improved towards me, but unfortunately, it hasn't. Their coldness still persists, and my dad, after seeing the impact it has on me, has knowingly limited his interactions with them. Over the years, he has even gradually stopped attending family functions altogether. My mom does try to bridge the gap, but my dad has never forgiven my maternal grandparents for treating me differently. Now, compared to my mom's side, my dad's side of the family is much kinder and more inclusive. From the very beginning, they welcomed me with open arms, treating me like one of their own. My cousins on my dad's side have always accepted me without question, embracing me as a true member of the family. We have spent countless holidays, birthdays, and family gatherings together. Even now, as adults, we all still hang out and maintain close relationships. We go on trips, celebrate milestones, and support each other through life's ups and downs. So my life wasn't all that bad. I enjoyed being an only child to my parents for a long time. They always gave me everything I wanted and did their best to make me feel valued and loved. Then, 7 years later, something incredible happened. By a miracle, my mom got pregnant with my youngest sister. This news came as a complete surprise since my parents had given up all hopes of having a biological child. The fact that my mom was expecting felt like a blessing to everyone. While my parents and the rest of the family were thrilled about my mom's pregnancy, I couldn't help but feel a bit envious and anxious. I worried that with a biological child on the way, their love and attention might shift away from me. This fear was also compounded by the knowledge of how my grandparents viewed me, and I was afraid that I might be abandoned again. Fortunately, my parents must have realized how I was feeling, so they had a talk with me. They assured me that I was always going to be their first daughter no matter what. My mother also pointed out how I could now have a younger sibling to share my days with, which was exciting. After talking to them, I felt much better and I couldn't wait to meet my baby sister. The day Claire was finally born, our entire family was over the moon. I remember feeling mesmerized looking at her for the first time. Everything about her, from her delicate fingers to her bright eyes, seemed incredibly adorable to me, and being an older sibling brought a whole new dimension to my life. We were incredibly close during her early years. Claire would trail after me wherever I went and would sometimes even try to imitate everything I did. Of course, like any siblings, we had our occasional squabbles, but I loved her too much to stay mad at her for too long. However, the real issue between us started when my maternal grandparents started telling Claire, as she grew up, that I wasn't her real sister. Initially, my parents were unaware of this, as they would sometimes drop Claire off at her grandparents' place for visits. But after every visit, Claire's behavior towards me gradually changed. She became dismissive and rude towards me for no reason. If I wanted to play with her or spend time with her, she would yell at me until I left her alone. My parents noticed this shift and tried to talk to her, but Claire never disclosed any reason, so they chalked it up to her going through a phase. But things started to get worse between us as we grew up. One day, I came back home from school to discover all the clothes in my closet had holes in them. These were random holes of various sizes cut into all my clothes. I thought maybe I was going crazy and this was an anomaly because there was no way that all my dresses would suddenly have holes in them. My first instinct was to call for my mom, who was equally surprised and puzzled. She suggested it might be rats, but the sheer number of holes in all my clothes overnight made that explanation improbable. We were both at a loss for words at the bizarre situation. Next, a few days later, I encountered another strange incident. My contact lenses, which I had left on the table before taking a shower, mysteriously disappeared. I searched everywhere, but they were nowhere to be found. Since I didn't have backup glasses, I could not attend my classes that day. And when I informed my parents, they scolded me for being irresponsible, assuming that I had misplaced them. I tried to explain that I would never do such a thing, but they didn't believe me, dismissing it as me being forgetful. However, things reached a breaking point when I entered my room one day after school to find Claire playing with my lipstick from my vanity stand. I was taken aback and asked her what the hell she was doing in my room. Claire turned around, looking guilty. As I approached my vanity, my heart sank as I saw my collection of lipsticks, which I had bought over the years, completely destroyed. Frustrated and angry, I couldn't help but scream in disbelief. My mom rushed into the room to see what had happened and was shocked at the sight of my ruined lipstick. She questioned Claire about her actions, but Claire simply started saying how she was just playing. I know this might sound like it was a normal thing between siblings, but I knew my little sister well, and this was not her usual behavior. Until then, I had always trusted Claire. I would have never suspected my little sister of behaving so maliciously. However, as I reflected on the past incidents and connected the dots, it became clear that she was the one responsible for cutting holes in my clothes and taking my contacts. I confronted her, demanding answers, wanting to understand why she would do such things. At first, my mom tried to calm the situation, expressing disbelief that Claire could be behind it, but I couldn't let it go and continued to question her until Claire tearfully admitted that she had indeed done all those things. Upon hearing this, Mom's expression shifted to one of surprise and concern. She gently asked Claire why she would engage in such destructive behavior. Claire, tears streaming down her face, then confessed our grandparents had been filling her head with negative ideas, constantly reminding her that I was adopted and shouldn't really live with them. They also fueled her jealousy by suggesting that I was trying to take away her inheritance and that our parents favored me more. The manipulation had led Claire to develop animosity towards me over time. I felt a surge of anger when I heard what Claire had confessed. It was frustrating because I had kept quiet about my grandparents' animosity towards me for so long. Now, seeing them manipulate Claire, it was like they had crossed a line. I knew that if Dad discovered what was going on, he would react strongly and might even cut off Claire's contact with them. Mom seemed to understand this too, because she started to urge me to let the matter go and promised to talk to Claire separately. She emphasized that it was unnecessary to bring this issue up to Dad right away. I questioned her decision, feeling that Dad deserved to know the truth behind Claire's behavior, as our grandparents were to be blamed. However, Mom insisted firmly that involving Dad might lead to Claire being scolded unfairly, which would imply that I didn't love my younger sibling enough. Reluctantly, I forgave Claire, trusting Mom to handle the situation with her delicately. It's disheartening to say that despite Mom's efforts to intervene, the situation between us never improved. Claire's behavior towards me only worsened as time went by. When she entered her teenage years, she became meaner and more hurtful. She would make fun of my appearance and weight, making me feel self-conscious about myself. Whenever I came back home from college for a visit, she would play nasty pranks on me and film them for her social media, adding to my embarrassment. What made matters worse was her attitude towards my relationships. Whenever I introduced a boyfriend to my parents, Claire would attempt to flirt with them right in front of me and would even go as far as to suggesting to them that they could do better than me. This was not just disrespectful, but also humiliating to me. Of course, I would yell at her and Dad would side with me, reminding Claire that she had no business talking to me this way. But Mom would often remain silent. I guess in her head, she kept refusing to accept just how deep her parents had wedged a gap between me and Claire. Just 3 years ago, our maternal grandparents had invited everyone on a trip that they were paying for, but, unsurprisingly, they conveniently excluded me. By then, I had learned to be okay with this exclusion, so it didn't bother me as much as it once would have. However, my dad refused to join the trip in protest. This decision made both my mom and Claire really frustrated. Mom, while understanding where Dad was coming from, still tried to change his mind. Claire, on the other hand, had a full-blown argument with him, questioning why he was choosing to drop out of a family trip just because of me. She told him that I was an adult who didn't want to come anyway, which was laughable. Since I wasn't even invited, she tried to convince him to not miss out on the trip because of me. Despite her pleas, Dad stood firm in his decision, refusing to go without me. After the trip, Claire posted a bunch of pictures with our cousins, captioning them with phrases like real family and her ride or die. Although it hurt me deeply knowing that my sister still saw me as an adopted sibling, I chose not to say anything to her. Over the years, I started going to therapy to heal myself and become more assertive. This decision was also influenced by the fact that I met the love of my life, Matt. He saw firsthand how rude my younger sister was and encouraged me to stand up to her. With his suggestion, I started talking to a psychiatrist, which is how I discovered that the primary reason I never argued back or stood up against Claire was because I somewhat felt guilty for not being our parents' biological child. The hurtful words from my maternal grandparents growing up had somehow made me feel inferior and think myself to be lesser than Claire. Consequently, I would let Claire walk all over me. However, as I began to heal and understand myself better, I gradually started to reclaim my self-worth and confidence. As of now, I no longer let Claire get away with being rude to me anymore. When we meet during family dinners or events, if she mutters a snide comment about me, I make sure to give it right back to her. Initially, she was surprised to see me fighting back, but over time, she has learned the hard way that I'm not someone to mess with anymore. Now, she keeps her opinions to herself, no matter how much she hates me. Also, unlike me, Claire doesn't have a good job, which is her biggest insecurity. She resents the fact that I have a higher degree and a better paying job. My financial stability allows me the freedom to travel wherever I want, while she still relies on support from our grandparents. Coming on to the main incident that provoked me to write on Reddit today, just a few months ago I found out that I was pregnant. This was amazing news for Matt and me, as we had been trying for a while. When I called my parents to share the news, they were overjoyed and told me how excited they were to meet their future grandchild. Matt and I have been reading multiple parenting books to prepare ourselves so we can be ready to take care of our baby. We have also put a lot of effort into redecorating and transforming a spare room of our house into a cozy baby nursery for our little one. This week, my baby shower was planned and my cousins from my dad's side were handling all the arrangements. I was excited to meet my family for such a joyous occasion and celebrate with them. 2 days ago, my mom called me to drop a bombshell. My sister Claire was getting a divorce. I was completely caught off guard because I had no inkling that her marriage was on the rocks. Claire's husband, Cameron, always seemed like a decent guy to me. Although I wasn't invited to their wedding, I've always been courteous and friendly to Cameron whenever we've crossed paths at family gatherings. It turns out, apparently Cameron walked in on Claire sleeping with her boss at their home. This discovery triggered a massive confrontation between them and led to Cameron kicking her out of his house. Claire then had no choice but to come and live at our parents' place. Dad, understandably, was furious with Claire. He firmly told her that if she couldn't honor the sacredness of marriage, then she deserved to be divorced and live alone. On the other hand, Mom felt like this was just a mistake that could potentially be rectified through couples counseling for Cameron and Claire. However, Cameron has remained firm in his decision to divorce and has cut off all communication with my sister. In light of this, Mom told me how it was better for me to cancel my baby shower happening this week as Claire was miserable at the moment. I was taken aback by her suggestion and gently reminded her that I had already sent out invitations and made arrangements, so canceling wasn't an option at that point. Mom insisted that Claire was in a very vulnerable state and that seeing me throw a baby shower might be too much for her. I reminded Mom that the world did not revolve around Claire and that I was having a baby shower for my baby. It had nothing to do with my sister or her situation. I firmly expressed that if she felt uncomfortable attending, she was welcome to not come and stay home with my sister, but my event would go on as planned. Clearly, my mom wasn't happy with my decision and kept arguing, but I didn't back down. I was fuming by the time I ended my phone call with her. It was really exhausting to watch my mom always support and favor Claire over me. I thought after our disagreement she would either let the matter go or realize just how wrong she was to suggest I cancel my own baby shower. Today, I was eagerly looking forward to my baby shower. My mom was supposed to pick me up from home, but we had not talked much after our fight last time, so I had made arrangements to go to the venue with one of my cousins. However, I was pleasantly surprised when my mom unexpectedly showed up to pick me up. It felt like a hopeful sign that she was finally showing support and that we could put the disagreement behind us. Imagine my shock when my mom solemnly came into my place to inform me that she had some news to give. Initially, I feared the worst and felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. However, my mom reassured me that it wasn't anything dire and helped me settle on the couch so that we could talk. Then, she informed me that since I had refused to cancel the baby shower, she had taken it upon herself to cancel it on my behalf. I was left stunned, blinking in disbelief as she explained how she believed she had saved me from potential embarrassment. Confused and frustrated, I questioned her about what the hell she was talking about. My mom went on to state that it wouldn't look good for me or for our family to celebrate while my sister was going through a divorce. In her view, canceling a silly little baby shower was a minor sacrifice to pay in support of my sister during such a difficult time. Feeling utterly betrayed and enraged, I struggled to contain the storm of emotions raging inside me. Every fiber of my being wanted to scream and shout at my mom about how she had violated my trust. However, because I am pregnant, I forced myself to rein in those impulses, closing my eyes tightly. I counted down from 10, desperately trying to regain composure. When I opened my eyes, the disappointment and hurt still lingered, but I managed to ask my mom firmly to leave my house immediately. I could not bear her presence near me after such a betrayal. At that moment, I felt like she had not just taken away my celebration, but had also disregarded my feelings and autonomy as an adult and a mother-to-be. I've been an emotional wreck since my mom stormed out. It's like my emotions are on a constant roller coaster, and tears just won't stop flowing. I had to reach out to Matt, and he's on his way after hearing what happened. It's just unbelievable that my own mom would do something like this to me. Part of me is tempted to expose the truth behind my sister's divorce, knowing mom is likely trying to sweep it under the rug, which is why she canceled my baby shower, so no one would ask her about it. I'm grappling with what's right and fair, which is why I'm posting this. AITA for not being able to forgive mom after what she has done? Should I expose my sister in front of everyone? Update 1. Thank you everyone for your comments. I have gone through every single one of them, and I would like to clarify a few things. First of all, Claire does have a hand behind why my mom canceled the baby shower, and my mom and she have always been very close, so I'm sure my sister must have had this idea first. Also, on the day my baby shower got canceled, Claire texted me, telling me to not be such a crybaby about my event and that I should not be so harsh on mom. She went on to tell me that she did not want mom answering questions about her divorce all day, and that as her family, I should understand this. She also asked me to keep her affair with her boss a secret. Secondly, mom tried to call me multiple times later in the day so that she could continue to reason with me and justify her actions. But this time, Matt wanted to talk to her. He started the conversation by giving her a piece of his mind and letting her know how ridiculous it was that she had canceled my baby shower without my knowledge. He firmly stated that he would never allow her to ever meet our child if she continued to blatantly disrespect me. My mom was shocked by this. However, after what she has done to me, I can't help but agree with my husband's decision. Lastly, my dad is not currently on speaking terms with either my mom or my sister after finding out what they have done. Since my baby shower got cancelled, him and Matt have discussed and decided to host a new one, to which Mom and my sister would not be invited. I have also had conversations with all my cousins who reached out to check on me after receiving my mother's text about the cancelled baby shower. They all agree that my mom crossed the line, and this time they want nothing to do with her anymore. Also, I have received multiple messages from people asking me why I never informed Dad about how my maternal grandparents were influencing Claire's negative views towards me. Honestly, I genuinely trusted that Mom would address this issue with Claire, and I didn't want to create unnecessary conflict within the family. Sometimes as children, we find ourselves in situations where we have to choose to remain silent, even if it's uncomfortable. As a child, I hoped my mother would advocate for me and defend me to her parents, but unfortunately, that never happened. Clearly, she preferred her own child over her adoptive child. Update 2. Okay, so I have a big update to give today. I felt that since both Mom and sister were refusing to acknowledge any fault for their actions, I needed to teach them a lesson so they would leave me alone for the rest of their lives. I listened to you all's advice and sat down to compose a detailed email addressed to each and every member of my family, explaining why my sister was going through a divorce. I didn't hold back as I detailed her affair with her boss and how she had shattered her husband's trust when he walked in on them. But I didn't just stop there. I also highlighted how my mom had canceled my baby shower out of embarrassment over my sister's life choices and how she didn't want to face anyone. I crafted the email meticulously, ensuring that every word would evoke rage and frustration in them, just like they had made me feel. I felt nothing but justified in my actions when I hit send on that email. It was my way of standing up for myself, of letting everyone know the truth behind the facade my mom and sister were trying to maintain of our perfect family. As you can imagine, my mom and sister reacted exactly as I had already anticipated. They started calling me furiously, leaving voicemails filled with accusations. I knowingly chose not to answer, letting their calls go to voicemail so I could listen to them later. Mom kept sending me messages insisting I needed to send another email to everyone, retracting my claims and emphasizing that I should not embarrass my poor sister, but I paid no heed to her. I'm sure both of them are receiving calls from everyone in the family trying to verify the details in my email. I feel no remorse for what I've done. I am sure now my mom will think twice before interfering in my life ever again. Surprisingly, that's not all. My maternal grandparents tried to get in touch with me as well. They must have read my email, and they were clearly upset about me exposing my sister. Despite their attempts to reach out, I ignored their calls for the sake of my peace of mind. I'm sure they must be even more furious now, which only brings me more satisfaction. Update 3. Because you all wanted me to give a further update about my situation, so here it goes. I finally had my baby shower, and it was epic. My cousins and close family friends showed up to give me the most wonderful experience. We laughed, shared stories, and celebrated the upcoming arrival of my baby. Thanks to my dad and Matt, the decorations were perfect. The food was delicious and the atmosphere was filled with joy and excitement. It was a day filled with love and positivity, and I couldn't be more grateful for everyone who made it possible. As for my mom and Claire, they are not doing well. Dad reached his breaking point with Claire's behavior when she recently came home drunk after going out on a date with her boss. Just to clarify, this guy she's been having an affair with is married with children, so it's obviously very wrong. When Dad saw the state she was in, he had finally had enough and asked her to leave the house. He felt it was time for her to take responsibility and start living independently since she had never lived alone in her entire life. Claire attended college in our city so she could continue to remain at home, and after graduation she moved in directly with her ex-husband Cameron. Dad did the right thing by kicking her out. Mom initially objected to his decision but eventually backed down when he asked her to leave with Claire if she wanted to go with her. I have no idea if Claire currently lives in her own apartment or is couch surfing with her friends, but I am just glad that she never called me for help. I know many of you were concerned about the impact of Mom's actions on my parents' marriage. Despite everything, I don't think they'll divorce. They've been together for so long, and despite the challenges they've weathered, they seem committed to staying together. While Mom's actions may have strained our relationship, I still value their marriage and hope they can find a way to work through their differences. It's disappointing that neither Mom nor Claire have offered an apology. Although Mom has attempted to reach out a couple of times, her messages are only about how hurt she is and nothing about how much she hurt me. It seems like she still hasn't fully grasped the impact of her actions. What really bugs me is that she could have addressed these issues between me and my sister long back when we were younger. But she chose to knowingly ignore the warning signs, and now it's too late for us. Our family is fractured now, and I blame her. I am planning on cutting off contact with my sister and my mom's side of the family permanently because I don't want my child to be ever surrounded by any negativity or hate. As for me and Matt, we are doing okay. He's an amazing partner and takes such good care of me. This might be my final update on this matter, as I want to move on from this matter and shift my focus onto cherishing these last few weeks of my pregnancy. Wish me luck. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.